The first part, I'm going to pose the challenge, starting with the Commissioner, around the big challenges that we've already heard of this morning through Dr. Moran, and the role of education in addressing those challenges, the promise of education.
Globalization is a major challenge. The rapid development of technology, the aging population, the unemployment, very high unemployment in the European Union, especially youth unemployment. But at the same time, we face a paradox in Europe. Whilst we have one of the highest unemployment rates ever, we have 1.5 million unfilled vacancies because of the skills mismatches. So this is another challenge. And also we have social injustices and inequalities.
There's a rising dissatisfaction with the outputs of education and the outcomes across the world at all levels. And this has been happening for a while. For the last 2 decades, it was slowly creeping in on us. We have been advancing a lot in the education community, but everything's relative. For every step we took in the education community, the society and the world of work has taken 5 steps. So the gap has been widening, although we feel we are doing some improvements. The global financial crisis, never waste a good crisis, as they say. The global financial crisis has brought this into the spotlight. The numbers of unemployment flying around across the world, it's only going to get worse because we have jobs, we cannot fill them. It's not about creating jobs anymore, probably. It's about creating the right skills as well to go along with that.
How do we help Africa to get its governance systems going? Second, to redirect its investment to young people and to complement that investment with investments, from example, Europe, which is an aging continent, for them to co-invest with Africa in its youthful population. We get a win-win and we create a pool of global public goods that then become brains that can circulate between Europe and Africa and other parts of the continent. But for that to happen, we need to really look at how do we get civic education as part and parcel of bringing education to life. Because the problems of governance in Africa have a lot to do with the fact that Africa has not had a culture of democratic governance embedded in the way governance works. And for that to happen, we need civic education from pre-primary, primary, secondary, and university, and also the place of work.
In African countries, parents are reluctant to send their children to school because the education they receive there does not meet the needs of the parents or of the society. These skills are based on books, or these are cognitive skills that do not meet the social demands and economic demands of the country. That's why TVET is very important.
The vocational education and training. We're talking about unemployment. In Europe, you know, the countries which have the lowest unemployment is Germany, Austria, the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland. Why? Because they have a very good system of vocational education and training, this dual system. So we are trying now to break the taboo in the southern countries and encourage them to set up a good vocational education and training. And this applies also to Africa, I'm sure.
What do you consider to be these useless degrees? What do you consider to be these non-serious subjects? In my country, in the business community, these charges are often leveled against the very skills, such as multilingual competency in foreign languages, that we need in order to globalize our economy. It's also leveled against gender studies, women's studies, African American studies, ethnic studies. So what are these useless degrees? If these are useless degrees, how do we make them more useful?
I disagree with the notion of a useless degree and useless subjects. I think what is much more important is whether what we teach children or adult students in university enables them to think about how to be human in our complex, interconnected globe, how they can contribute as moral individuals, ethical individuals, to create a society which will be a better place than the place they enter. That, for me, is key.
What is important is, in addition to the expert knowledge that one gets from the discipline of his or her choice, to have all the additional transversal skills that you need in life. And I think, listening to Dr. Moran just before us, I think it is so important to understand what are these skills. To be creative, to be entrepreneur, to work together as a team, to have a critical mind, to have adaptability because of the changing circumstances. Every person has to have the ability to adapt to new circumstances.
We've heard arguments about partnership here with business. There are those who would argue that unless we think about new partnerships, we will be exacerbating inequities. That learning is now everybody's business, and it better be a partnership if we're going to be able to achieve the outcomes that we want. And even the suggestion, and I don't mean even in the sense of this is unusual, but people talk about philanthropists, corporates, not-for-profits, social entrepreneurs, now futurists who can imagine a better learning system. Now, as you think about this, how do you try and position the way forward for a learning system? Who are the partners? How much place for the market? How do we tackle the questions about equity that you have raised yourselves this morning on this panel?
I don't think fixing the challenges we have in education today is going to come from a bunch of small reforms, tinkering with curriculums, giving iPads to students, or marginally improving the training of teachers. I don't think fixing the current machine is going to get us to where we want to go. We really need to completely rethink the machine. Otherwise, we will continue to do small delta reforms while the world of work is doing leaps. And we will continue to fall behind. The inequality is going to widen because those who will be able to match the education to the needs are going to be the ones who are more capable, more linked to larger industries, the Silicon Valleys of the world versus the world. So this is going to be these problems are going to only get worse, and we're going to continue talking about them in a larger fashion as we move along. Probably the thing to think about really here is we really need to bring the private sector and the social entrepreneurs into this equation. They cannot be recipients of the outputs of education. We see now business schools and other schools of economics, introducing in a major way professional teachers who are not sitting there full time. We're bringing people from the world of practice. We're asking parents to be a major part of education. We have to pull the community and the private sector in, and only by working together and getting away from this value chain where we educate, they receive, they complain, and we cannot continue that linear thinking anymore.
First of all, let's be honest. We need investment in education. And this is the message that I'm trying to convey to all the governments in the 28 European Union member states. Without investment, you cannot achieve anything. And finally, we need to encourage openness to the outside world. We have to give the opportunity to our teachers, to our learners, to our institutions to know the others.
Young people are the ones who are going to shape the future of our continent and, or by virtue of that, of the globe. How do we enable them to be good citizens of their countries, who are self-confident, at the same time, who are global citizens and have a flexibility to be able to learn new ways of doing things from all of the environments that constitute the partnership that I referred to. That, for me, is the challenge of the future of education.
do not be fooled by all the ICT changes and the e-tutor and the MOOCs. These are things that will replace the textbook, not the teacher. The teacher, as a human being who is leading the educational process, is going to become more important, not less. All the other tools are just simply, thank you. All these tools are going to replace the textbook. They will replace the medium by which we impart some of these knowledge, but the teacher, the facilitator, has to be the center of this reform and radical reform. So my message in conclusion is the one that WISE paper has now started with, and the headline is Reinventing the Teacher. This is the unit. If you want a very practical thing to think about, where do we establish industry links? Where do we establish links with parents? It's not about parent councils coming to the school. The unit of governance, the unit of reform should be the teacher. How do we do that? I don't know, but I know that's where we have to start. And they have to be the rock and roll stars of the future.